Good evening, everybody. And today's date is June 30th, 2026. The World Cup is going right now. And like I mentioned in a couple videos before on TikTok, the stuff that we're going to be talking about today, let's get into it. So, first of all, as you guys can see, I'm rocking my Dale Earnhardt shirt from Sonoma Raceway from this past weekend. And I'll definitely dive into that a little bit today. Also, some of the adventures and shenanigans that I definitely want to get into that always tend to happen to your boy, and I'll definitely dive into that. Now that men's mental health is officially over, generally speaking, as a last and final reminder, if you are a male or a female, it does not matter, and you are honestly not in the right state of mind at any point in time, you feel like you need to find someone to speak to or talk to, there is plenty of podcasts out there or phone numbers that you can contact if you seriously need help. So before I dive into this video, I definitely want to acknowledge those people that do provide services like that for those men and women who suffer from mental health, who suffer from substance abuse issues and things like that. So I just want to make sure that all of you, if you need help, there is plenty of help and everything else is available for you at any point in time. So don't just think that when you are going through something that you are the only one. So I want to take these first couple minutes to make sure that whoever's listening, you listen into this ahead of anything. Look, I understand that life is rough. I understand that life is hard, and maybe you're in a spot or in a time, in a place that you need to hear this. So I definitely want to voice this to you, even if you're listening. Don't tune me out. Because even though we oftentimes try to evade the problems, we try to avoid the elephant in the room, but the elephant in the room is still there. And if we're not addressing our own problems and our own challenges, they'll never get resolved and they'll never get better. Second part, don't ever think that you're on your own going through it. There is a lot of people that oftentimes they hide behind smiles, they hide behind other stuff, and they simply try to cover it up and not necessarily acknowledge when they're going through some shit. So even though somebody might look like they have their stuff together, like they definitely have everything in order, you never know what people are going through. And for that very reason, you're not alone. I want to make that very clear. There is a greater population that goes through anxiety, depression, and everything else in between. Substance abuse issues are legit and they are real and they are rampant. Just because they're not visible to you, just because they're not manifesting themselves to you, where you can visually see somebody going through it, does not mean that they're not going through something. So if you are one of those individuals who needs to seek help or talk to someone, reach out to somebody that you trust. Reach out to somebody that you can speak to and communicate stuff to. Because a lot of us men, in particular, this is for men, don't be stubborn. Put your guard down at least for a few moments and talk. And you'll be surprised. Now that we got that out the way, let's dive into today's episode. So, like I mentioned earlier, I went to Sonoma Raceway this weekend, which was a phenomenal event. I had never gone, and my buddy Kwame and a couple of my other friends have always asked that I go. And for the past 8 years, I kid you not, 8 years, something has either happened, transpired, that has not allowed me the opportunity to go. And on this occasion in particular, I just decided to kind of just rip the Band-Aid off and said, fuck it, I'm gonna go. And we got up early. I think it was like around 5:30 in the morning. And I got to my buddy's house around 6. I picked him up. Then we went over to the city of Sonoma, which basically was gonna be hosting the event. And when we get there, basically it's your typical tailgate event where everybody brings drinks, barbecues, food, and you basically make an event out of it before the race starts, which typically starts around noon. But because there's so much to do there, we wanted to make sure that we got there early so that way we can walk around the entire place, get a couple souvenirs like these shirts. I got a couple things for my kids and my spouse. This is actually her shirt, but I'm wearing it. So fuck it, whatever. She's not going to wear it. I'm going to wear it. But anyway, the reason why I want to touch on this story is because I think it's something that I've touched on a few times in a few other episodes. And I don't know what is it about me. Maybe I'm just paying attention to stuff like this. But I'm always in situations in bathrooms, and this is gonna sound really weird, so pause, all right? I know, get your giggles out before I continue. But always some weird shit happens in the bathrooms when I'm going to these places. And one of the things that I definitely want to ask, and I want to ask it to you guys that are listening. When the hell or why are we still having urinals in a trough format in 2026? I thought we were over that. And if you guys don't know what that is, and for my older crowd, this is gonna hit home. But for the younger folks, you're gonna be like, what? If you don't know what that is, a trough, you know what a trough is, and I really hope that you do. If not, I'm gonna put a picture on the video so you guys can see it. And it's typically in farming or in agriculture is where you basically put a whole bunch of water, and all your animals or your cattle, whatever it is, has a source of water for them to drink out of when they're thirsty. Now, generally speaking, this could be a multitude number of animals all at the same time, and they're all enjoying the water, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. And in this case, this is what it was. But instead of this, think of it as a concept of a urinal, where basically you go in there, you do your number one, and you do your thing in front of everybody who's around you. And it's not like 5 or 8 people, dude. I'm talking about like 20, 30 folks that are all in there for the same task. And it's one of those weird ass moments, even as an adult, you get to a point where you feel low-key uncomfortable in those particular situations that you walk into, and you're not ready for it unless you're there. Stop the moment. And like for the ladies listening to the podcast, it's like the same similar thing of you guys going to the restroom and the stalls that you generally go into, and there's no walls. Literally, there's nothing left to the imagination. You're literally in there doing your business, and everyone in that bathroom is listening and watching your shenanigans as you go through them. The urinal, for us men, is exactly that. And I'm sorry that I'm going to spend this much time on it, but it impacted me so much that I felt the need to speak on it. Like even one of my nephews, Tito, that I mentioned in our group chat that we're always in, he started cracking up because he was like, dude, what the hell? I'm like, yes, because here's the second part. If you are over the age of just adolescence in particular, if you are able to control your bowels in a sense, right? And have some sort of common sense, when or why would you still drop your pants and your shorts to go number one? Why? Unless you're a child learning and you can't control your stuff, I get it. But why? I mean, I don't get it. I don't know. But I'm walking in there and it's like 97 degrees. Pardon me, let me take a sip of my coffee. So we get there and we have our stuff. And then unfortunately, I'm the first one to break the seal. And if you guys don't know what that is basically, generally speaking, men in general, we try to hold our number one for as long as we possibly can until we can't, because we feel for some fucking reason, I don't know, but we feel that the second that we break that seal, meaning the second that you go bathroom the very first time, you're going to go more often. And I don't know why that happens. It just is. I don't know if it's mental. That's our own shit. Anyway, so I'll go in there, right? So I'll go inside the bathroom and I look to my left, and the bathroom was clean. Don't get me wrong. But as I literally walk in there in the bathroom, and then there's a secondary entrance on the back part of the building. But the first part that I go in there, and it's a pretty big bathroom, all right? So it's a lot of troughs everywhere. And there's a bunch of people just doing their thing, which is weird as shit. But if you go in the back corner, they have updated urinals. And the urinals basically, but they're not like troughs. They don't have no divider, no privacy thing. So even though you have your own dedicated urinal for you to do your business, somebody could pull up next to you and literally you're there. You're having an honest conversation with tile and grout detail. What I mean by that is you're looking like right this, dude. You don't want to look at nowhere. You don't want to look left or right. Your peripheral is locked in. You don't want to go and expand your vision because you don't know what the hell you're going to see. But anyway, so I go in there and I make a left and I see this gentleman, an older gentleman, with his pants down, like bare ass naked. Like, I mean, I'm not even fucking kidding. Like, yes, that's exactly how it was. There was nothing left to the imagination. No, he didn't have his underwear down to his knees or covering up a little bit of his backside. No, it was in full display. He was just doing his thing, and you either had a choice to either you felt uncomfortable about it, let him finish his business, try to deviate from the situation and maybe go potty somewhere else or go number one somewhere else or wait for a stall. But in the stalls, two or three stalls down, there was a gentleman honestly going through some shit. And it was like, I mean, the auditory orchestra that was coming out of this man in the stall, it resonated and it echoed, and it just added to the whole entire mood or vision or vibe, whatever you want to call it. You had that going on. You had my dude with his pants dropped down, and then I had to go bathroom. And then all of a sudden, there was like a massive crowd of people that come in just right behind me. So I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to be the one next to this dude doing his thing, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to go to the farthest urinal that I can find in the back 40. So I walk over there. My guy in the bathroom is still having his issues. There is a dude with his ass hanging out. And I'm just like going to the back 40 because I see a big ass crowd coming in. So I start doing my thing. And mind you, there's 3 or 4 urinals next to me, all right? So there's bathroom etiquette that if there is 5 or 6 other urinals next to you, you don't go right next to the person that you're like, if you're on the far left, you at least skip a urinal, bro, and go to the next one, dude. Now, this guy came straight, V-line straight to me, right-hand side. It was uncomfortable. Because it's like, in my mind, I'm thinking like, dude, why does this shit always happen? And then it is just a weird moment, and I don't know if some of you guys have been to these types of bathrooms before, but it just gets weird, dude. But apart from that whole entire event, the whole entire thing was absolutely phenomenal. Really good vibe, really good people. I know that there's a lot of like stereotypes that would go with, NASCAR, that there is one particular ethnicity that enjoys the events more than others. Nah, man, there was all colors of the world there. Everybody was there just vibing. You were there for a vibe. If you love cars, if you love the sounds of that, you'd be surprised how many people have so much in common with NASCAR, more than you think. So I recommend it. If you've never been there, it's a lot of fucking walking, but if you do go, I recommend take a lot of water with you. Take a lot of hats. Put on some sunscreen, because Lord, I am burnt, dude. My voice is shot because the pollen and all the grasses and everything else in between. So if I sound a little hoarse, apologies, but it is what it is. But the event was great and had a good time with my buddies. And then we definitely are going to be doing this again for next year. And they're talking about another event that's going to be happening in October. So who knows? That's going to be in Arizona. But that one, I think we might be flying, but that might be a little bit of a bigger toss-up. But let's dive into the topic since we're on the World Cup. Right now, Mexico is playing as we speak. They're playing Ecuador. So good luck to Mexico and good luck to Ecuador, because Latin American countries fighting for it. But like I mentioned in the preview for the TikTok episode, let's dive right in. Today's topic, what's the difference between comp sports and recreational sports? Let's dive right in. So, from my personal perspective, as somebody who is currently going through it, and I've been doing competitive dance now for about 14 years for my daughter. We've been doing comp soccer now for about 6 years, and now we're getting into baseball with my son. Thank goodness right now, he's too young still for us to go ahead and try to put him in a comp program, a travel ball, or any sort of official travel ball, because from what my brother-in-law and my nephews have gone through and people that I've known, baseball is expensive. Bags are expensive, gloves are expensive, bats are expensive, gear is expensive. And apart from baseball, shit, I mean, damn, it's pricey. And travel ball, it's even pricier. I mean, right now we're kind of going through it. Even when my daughter playing, apologies real quick, even my daughter playing soccer. And next week we're going to be going to Beaverton, Oregon for an Adidas tournament. So we're looking forward to that. But the difference between one or the other, and I want to make this very clear, there is nothing wrong with doing a recreational sports. Absolutely nothing wrong. And if that is for you, that is for you. But I'm specifically speaking on the difference. The difference is commitment and development. What I mean by that is commitment. What type of commitment level do you have as a parent for this thing, for this sport? Are you going to be the parent that is going to commit all these weekends and travel and expenses because it is expensive and it is pricey? Do you have that commitment in you to do that? Number one. Number two, do you have the commitment to do the extracurricular stuff to get your kid set up the right way and going and getting better in this sport? In competitive sports, it's not just enough just to train and go to the sessions that are brought to you by the coach and the league. It is your responsibility to do that little bit extra if you want your child to develop. Now, if you don't have the monetary flexibility to do so, that I completely understand. However, your level of commitment is gotta be there. You gotta be on top of your kids' nutrition. You gotta be on top of your kids when it comes to their training habits. You gotta have them focused, even during games, regardless of age. A lot of people are saying, yeah, let them have fun. Yes, let them have fun. And that's completely okay. Their development is gonna come on their own, but at the same time, you have to also hold a certain standard or expectation. Do not just let the coach dictate that. You got to do your part too. And in comp sports, I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges, that there is a big, massive disconnect from the parents that do not understand or comprehend what comp sports are. And when they're actually inside comp sports, they get upset and they feel disappointed that it's too much pressure on the kid, that kids aren't being kids, that they're not being properly developed, that the coach sucks, the club sucks. Whether that might be right or not, it is your level of commitment that's going to dictate the growth of your child. You got to put into it. You have to invest. So it starts with you as a parent to understand that. That is the major, biggest one between one or the other. Recreational sports is a little bit different because the expectation is less. Kids are oftentimes doing recreational sports because they don't really have a sport that they're necessarily in love with. So you're trying to get them used to a sport and see if they enjoy it and they can build from it. So it's very, very developmental. But it also teeters off very, very quickly. You're in, you learn the basics, and you're off to the races. There is no real growth or additional development that you will get from recreational sports unless you do extra shit, or you play up, or you play in multiple different teams where the skill level is going to be all over the place and maybe a little bit more in line with what you want. But however, there are players in recreational sports that just because they don't have the financial ability to do so, they're stuck in recreational sports. And I completely get that, because I was one of those kids that you might have a talent, but you probably are going to be a slow or a late bloomer. That's going to be basically, you're going to be training a little bit later and you might be learning in middle school. So you're going to be a few years behind a lot of other folks. But in this case, that's what that is, the commitment level. And that's the part that a lot of parents oftentimes, like I mentioned earlier, forget that. Also, your kid, you have to make a realistic assessment and and vision of what your kid is and what they're going to be. If they are not necessarily the best coordinated individual, if they are not the one that's most dedicated, the most athletic, comp sports right off the bat is not for you. I would recommend to have your child develop in rec and see if they enjoy the sport, if they pick up on it, and then maybe bring it over to comp. Because if you put in your kid having those deficiencies immediately doing comp and they're not mentally strong to adapt, you're going to get eaten up alive, and those kids are going to end up hating the sport. Because oftentimes in comp sports, playing time matters, development matters, and coaches are on your ass. They're not going to be taking their foot off. Coaches in comp sports in some clubs, they're getting paid. It's not an exorbitant amount of money, but they're not there for free. They're offering their time to do so, but a lot of clubs, reputable ones, pay their comp coaches. The ones that don't, hey, shit, if you have a great coach that you're not paying anything for the club, everything's provided for you, and your kid is development, that's a lottery winner. Keep and stay on that club, because that is probably the other side of comp sports that oftentimes parents miss out on, and that is finding the right club that's a good fit for you. If you are the type of parent that wants your kid to be challenged, you're going to look for clubs that are going to be more in line with what you're looking for. My biggest advice on the very first one, if you're ever going to do any, do not go for the top of the top, the most elite, the biggest, the badasses of the badasses clubs. Don't do that. There's a couple in Northern California that are very, very popular and extremely famous because they produce results. They produce good players. But, however, the other side of that coin is, what are those kids doing? What are those parents doing that's different that you're going to be doing? Are you going to be able to have that level of commitment to get to your child to that level? And oftentimes you're not. So I wouldn't recommend going to the club that's the most expensive. I would recommend to find the club that's more in line with your budget. See what their schedules look like. See what division they're playing in, because that also matters. And also look at the coaches and their development, and if that's something that's going to help your child or not. And unfortunately for us, for my child, we decided not to do the recreational sports after doing it for 2 years, just because the league that we were in, number one, they always played up 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different levels. It was insane. There was very little development from the coaching, and there was very little commitment from the players and from the parents. And what that translated to, it was a complete disaster and a shit show when it turned out on the field, and we just looked like a joke. So I was not about to be a part of that. So I removed my daughter from that, and I did a lot of research, and I found the program and the club that she's in now. It's not perfect, but it fits for what we want. And it's kind of going in line with how her growth development is. And I've also come to terms, because this is the other part of comp sports, how far is your kid going to grow? How far are they going to get into this? How far are they going to ride baseball, soccer, football? How far are they going to go? If your expectation is that your child will be a D1 player, a D1 college athlete, or a future all-star baseball player, whatever that is, I'm sorry, sweetheart, but I'm going to tell you this right now. There's a bigger chance that your kid will not than they will. There's such a small percentage of players that make it into D1 schools, that make it into college, that make it into universities, that make it into semi-pro, that make it into professional. There is so much work that it takes and talent to get there. Your commitment level, your athleticism can only take you so much, because at some point, everyone starts catching up. Talent can only take you so far. You have to put in the extra work right after that and find a club or a team or school that fits what you want. And just because you're going to a reputable club does not mean that you're going to be getting playing time. Sometimes you have to go to a much lesser known club so your kid develops. Because that's the other thing. If your expectation is my kid is going to go to the school or is going to go to the sports program, they win championships every year. Yeah, but does your kid sit on the bench 95% of the time? Do they actually enjoy the sport, or are they just there? So comp sports comes with all of that. And you have to think if you are willing and able to commit to that. And for rec, it's great for development, great for building friendships, getting along to the parents, and ultimately just having fun, not caring about the results. It's a great league, and they're phenomenal for kids that you just want them to be given an opportunity to enjoy a sport that they might not often play or be given an opportunity to play. And it's okay. They don't really track results. There is league. Everything is localized. You don't travel much. Practices are very set. And development is very small and very slow, because you have to think about it that there's players that are ready to really be a comp player, but they're not. And you got players that are barely kicking the ball for the very first time. So it's only common sense that the coach is going to cater to somewhere in the middle. Who that benefits are the players that are developing. Who does it hinder and impact are the players that are already there and want to take the next step. But they can't, because they're limited on the team that they are in. The other part of sports in general, do not assume or think, and if you are because you have no choice, nothing against it, but I personally have a pet peeve of mine is that if I'm going to take my kid to practice, I want to stay there and watch them practice. And not for the reasons that you think, I want to be there, so I want to be just a helicopter parent and make sure that my kid is focusing. Yeah, that's part of it. But the biggest part of it, and this goes to the parenting side of it, you want your child to see you. You want your kid to look to the sideline when they're practicing, when they're thirsty, when they have a cramp, where they do a good play, that they want to look back for validation of their parent that they're doing something well. Oftentimes, I know it's difficult for some parents that have multiple kids and multiple sports, but you have to find that balance. If you are not able to because of your schedule, because of work or whatever, that's completely understandable. But if you are able to do so, and you are making the decision to just dropping off your kid and just staying in the car and having her or him practice the entire time, hour and a half, busting their butt, I don't see the reason in that. And you don't necessarily have to get out of the car and start socializing with every parent, because trust me, not every parent wants to socialize with you. We do it to be courteous and be cordial, because we're riding this shit for a solid year. But being there and being a present father or mom or auntie or uncle or parent, brother, whatever it is, that child needs to have somebody there to validate what they are doing. If they are on their own falling in love with the sport and doing what is needed for them to be successful in the sport, that is phenomenal. But I can tell you right now that there is nothing greater for me than to watch my kids do their sport and do it well. I'm the biggest hard ass when it comes to them doing something bad because they're my kid. But at the same time, you also cheer on other kids. And that's the other thing too that I mentioned in another episode. Cheer those other kids. If a kid does well during practice before you leave, single one out and be like, great job. Because you know what? Their parents probably weren't even there. They don't even know what they did. Hey, that was a great pass. Hey, that was a solid routine today. Hey, that was a phenomenal kick. Oh, you saw that? You'll be surprised how much their eyes light up that somebody's paying attention. And because as we get older in life, as our kids get older and they embark on their own individual journeys, it's memories like this and moments like this that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives. And you are creating that culture. You will be cultivating those habits and that development. Because as we get older, our bodies wither, our memories are still intact. Some of us, maybe not all, but the ones that do, I think there's not going to be a much greater feeling than having those memories and remembering your child when they were doing their best, when they were development, when they were learning how to kick the ball, they were barely learning how to dance, they were barely learning how to kick a baseball or bat a baseball or catch a ball. And then you see them in games at 10, 12, 13, 14 years old, doing all these phenomenal plays. You go on these tournaments and they are doing outstanding. They are a standout. There's no greater pride. And this doesn't just apply to your biological kid, because I know right now these days, sometimes people adopt, they co-parent your stepson or your stepdaughter, whatever that is, just being present. But that is comp sports. The last thing that I will say is this, because I've seen this on videos a few times. People getting mad like, oh, we went to this tournament and the other team ran up the score. You're in comp, number one. It's not a Sunday league game where points don't matter. Goal differential matters in soccer. And if you guys don't know what that is, I'm not going to bore you with the details, but the scores count. If they beat you by 3, if they beat you by 6 or 7, if you're in a tournament, that impacts and that dictates your placing and the opponents you will face in the next round. So yes, they're going to run up the score. Yes, they're going to prove a point. They're not going to hold back. You're in comp sports along with the other team. Now, there are tournaments where they penalize you once you reach a certain limit, 6 or 7 points. Then for every point that you score past 6 or 5, then they deduct that from your overall score. But not every tournament does that. Some tournaments are kind of like, fuck, you're in, dude. You score until you stop me. Or in some cases, maybe out of pure etiquette, some coaches are going to be like, hey, girls, we're up 5-0, 6-0, and we're in the second half. Instead of scoring the next one, I want you guys to practice building out from the goalie. So in other words, they will go up to your line and almost score, even though you're trying to stop them. They'll purposely kick it all the way back to the goalie and build out again to try to reach your goalie. But if you're in comp sports and you're complaining about somebody running up the score, that right there tells me you should do rec. Just get out of here with that nonsense. That makes no sense. You're in comp sports. That's life. Life doesn't pause and feel bad for you and what you're going through. Life is going to throw shit at you every single day, and you got to dodge and weave and kick the ball around and do something with it, but you got to do it. But anyway, with that being said, I think I'm going to post my last episode next Monday because I will be off for about a week because I'll be traveling to Washington to visit my family. So I want to dedicate next week's episode to them. But apart from that, hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. We're 33 minutes in. Let's go enjoy the World Cup. Hopefully Mexico advances to the next round, makes it interesting. I don't know. Some weird shit's been popping in World Cup, dude. So I might be touching on that next week. But other than that, have a blessed evening, great day. And most importantly, keep listening, subscribe, like, share, do everything else in between. Go to Sonoma Raceway. Evaluate whether you are going to be a comp or rec parent or player. Look for clubs that fit your budget and enjoy the sport. God bless. Good night.